Greetings, my friends. Today I thought I would show you some of the steps that I'm taking to repair this Kenwood TS-130S high-frequency transceiver. It is from about 1980 or so, give or take, and is actually in pretty good functioning condition. There are some issues with it, and I'm going to correct one of those issues today, and in a future video we'll correct the other one. So the first thing we're going to do is go over what specifically the problem with this thing is. Inside here are several relays. One is about here toward the back, and I'll show you that in a minute. Another one was on the bottom under here on the RF board, the radio frequency board, the transmitter board, so that when the radio goes into send mode here, or when you press the key on the microphone, and this microphone works. I use it and it works really well despite its age. It's actually in really good shape. I love it. But there are actually several, and there's another relay back here. The one back here seems to be functioning perfectly normally. The one underneath and the one back here, well, they're going through what a lot of these old Kenwoods did, which, you know, it's close to, gosh, it's 40 some years old, or maybe 38, 39 years old. It's been through, you know, it's been around for a while. And these old relays, they get a little bit dodgy after a while. Here's what one of them looks like. It's in a bag. And these relays are from, they were installed with this transceiver when it was first built. And the relays, after a while, the contacts stop working. They build up oxides on the spots where the things touch, and they seem to lose the ability, at least I've seen with this one, to properly connect and disconnect. The problem is actually worse with the one on the bottom. The excuse me. The issue exhibits itself by, after you come out of transmit mode and go into receive mode, the radio seems to be operating as though it is desensitized, like the receiver loses a huge amount of gain when it should be getting a lot more than it is. So the issue is twofold, and the other one is the one that turns on the RF attenuator, which is this button here on the front. This radio has a radio frequency attenuator. It drops 20 decibels from the signal coming into the radio, and that's a great tool for eliminating noise when you're trying to pick up relatively faint signals. And it's also a tool to let you kind of like tune in on medium to moderate strength signals. So the RF attenuator in this one is completely out, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I've already removed the screws from this, so I can just take the cover off. But if you need to remove the cover on one of these things, there's 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 2. Oh, sorry, I'm pointing at them when I'm off camera. There are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then on each side are 2 other screws. There's 1 here and 1 here, for a total of 8 screws, so that you can get the top off. It isn't generally necessary to actually disconnect the speaker, although I'm going to. It's just this plug here. All you do is grab it and pull it straight up. You don't need to use a lot of force, okay? One thing to be careful about with these particular radios is that these things used technology called CMOS, and they're subject to a risk of static discharge. So you want to make sure that you're pretty consistently grounding yourself, so that you're not going to accidentally drive static through some critical components. Because one thing we'll find is that these components are very, very hard to source. So in order to remove the board in question, actually I'm going to show you what it looks like. You're not going to actually hear any, well, you know what, let me just plug it in so you can actually hear it. I shouldn't have disconnected this, but I'll plug it back in briefly. And you'll be able to hear, because this transceiver, it is plugged in, and I don't recommend you work on something plugged in. I'm doing it for one reason, and that's just to show you what should be happening, and then I'm going to unplug it to work on it. So when I turn it on, you can hear the static. You can tune around a bit. You can hear some distant carriers. I'm not really doing much. But when you see this relay, when I hit the RF attenuator button, that relay should move, and it does not. This relay should be popping up and down whenever I hit this button on the front. See? and nothing is happening. And that's because the relay itself is damaged. There's actually supposed to be a cover on it. The cover was there, but when I was trying to diagnose this thing, I removed the cover, and I haven't put it back on because I knew it was just going to replace the relay, so it doesn't even matter. But I'm going to replace this whole relay, and hopefully that'll solve our RF attenuator problem. So I'm going to turn the radio back off. I am going to disconnect the power supply just to be safe. And then I'm going to unplug the speaker. And then these three here, it's these three plugs. They're very easy to remove, but grab it by the plug. Don't ever pull the wire. You will regret it. Grab it by the plug. They can wiggle a little bit and pop out. They should be very clearly marked, like 73, 73. This one is marked 67, goes to 67, and this one is marked 68 and goes to 68. You know, go figure. And then all you need to do is get yourself a nice Phillips screwdriver, and there's 2 screws to remove. Now, one thing to be careful about is that these screws can fall deeper into there, and if you drop them down inside, well, I mean, you can get it back out, but it's going to be difficult. This screwdriver is not magnetic, but if it falls all the way down in there, it can be a bit of a challenge to retrieve. I'm going to see if I can just lift the whole board out, screw and all, because there's only the 2 screws. See, I dropped it. Hold it in. So the screw fell down there, but that's not going to be much of an issue because I have the tools to take care of that. So it just fell down here. I always get a little paranoid about this kind of thing because I worry about it like falling into the finals, and then it's going to be, I have to take the whole thing apart to get it out. So thankfully that didn't occur. So now we can take a look at the relay board. You can actually just buy this entire thing, the whole relay board with all of the components, for a relatively inexpensive price. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you can find these things on eBay or other sites. They're usually used, actually they're always used, and or if you're really talented, you could probably make your own. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 components, and then a 12-volt relay. This particular relay is a specific type. It is the G2E made by Omron. And the problem with these relays now is that they aren't made anymore. As far as I can tell, these things went out of production a very long time ago. There were some replacements, some drop-in replacements made for them. I don't remember the model number, but it's like a Matsushita, I think. But in any case, those are no longer made. So sourcing a replacement relay for this is really challenging. So a lot of people just replace the whole board. An alternative would be to remake the board with a different relay. This is a 12-volt a 12-volt single position double throw switch, I believe, or double position single throw. I can never remember, but it is. You can look up the specs, and if you were to find a similar relay with similar performance characteristics, it would have a different footprint. You'd have to design your own board. But for anybody who knows a little bit of PCB design and is willing to source a few relatively easy to find jelly bean components, you could probably make your own. I don't want to make my own. I'm going to replace it with this one that I got, and I showed it to you a moment ago. This is an Omron G2E, new old stock I got from a dealer in New Jersey. They're great. A lot of times, though, you're not going to be able to find these within the States. I got lucky. The people I bought this from had like 2 left in stock. Most of the time, you're going to end up buying this on eBay from China, and it takes a while to get. So if you do need to restore one of these radios, you're going to need to plan for that, and you're going to be paying between 30 and 40 bucks for one of these. At least that's about what I looked at, but you might do better, so we'll see. So the next steps, I'm gonna go ahead and desolder this relay and remove it from the board, and when I come back, I will have soldered the new one in place, and we'll put it back in, and we'll see how it works. So I'll be right back. Okay, I wanted to show you something about this as I'm doing this desoldering. The first thing is that if you look closely, this is the bottom of the printed circuit board, and this pin here is the back of the relay. This pin is the back of the relay. That's, if you can see through this, you know what, I'll just take it out of the bag here. I don't want to have to force to look through a bag. See, that's going to be this pin and this pin. But then up front here, there's 4 more pins. And if you look very closely, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5th pin. And that 5th pin that I'm pointing at here in front is a resistor. I'm not going to turn it over because it's in my little cheapy little vise here that isn't even anchored, but it's heavy enough to keep it from moving while I work on it. So the trick to desoldering this is going to be to use, I'm trying to use relatively low temperature. I don't want any temperature to spread through the circuit board. I'm not too worried about it given the age of these components, but I'm also using an extremely fine tip and my good old solder sucker. Now this solder is very old, and so it's going to definitely have lead in it, which is one reason why I'm wearing gloves. But you're going to want to be careful about this kind of stuff. The amount of lead exposure in this isn't major, but still, you know, you want to be careful. So to desolder, you just get it like that. So I'm going to do these ones because they look a little easier. So you just heat it up, and it'll clearly, you see it turn liquid, and then it's gone. The solder gets shiny. And you don't even really need to be all that close with the solder sucker. Sometimes it takes a couple of shots. But what I'm trying to do here is avoid overheating it, because I definitely don't want to lift any traces, because then I will be in the position of having to go buy one of these from eBay, and I don't want to have to do that. So let's get these last 2 here. And I'm afraid I'm probably going to end up desoldering the resistor as well, but that's okay. I'll just resolder it. I'll leave the pin where it is. And as you can see, it's taking longer to heat this one up because there's more solder and more mass and another component to wick the heat away. I'm still learning about desoldering, but what I've learned is short applications of heat, get your work done, get out, let it cool down, and start again. If you overheat stuff, you're going to have a bad day. Excuse me. By the way, this stuff here, tip tinner, it's your soldering iron's best friend. This stuff keeps my tips in such good shape. Love it. All right. So that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this off now. We'll come back when I put the other one on. But I definitely wanted to show you, if you're planning on doing this, watch out for that resistor there, because you don't want to actually end up accidentally desoldering it. So be right back. Welcome back, my friends, and I am pleased to report that my surgery was a success. The new relay is installed and appears to be functioning well, as evidenced by, I will turn this on again. Don't try this at home unless you really know what you're doing. Be careful. Don't go poking around inside a live system and, you know, get yourself shocked. I'm going to turn it on, and you can hear the RF. Turn up the volume, turn it down. I can turn the gain up and down. And then when I hit the attenuate button, the RF gain drops, and if you look closely, you can see the relay actuating whenever I hit it. So the attenuator is doing its job. So, step 1 to reviving this thing and getting it fully functional again. Once the new relay for the bottom arrives in a couple of days, I will show you a video of tearing it down, getting that board out of the bottom of the radio, removing that relay and replacing it. So I hope you've enjoyed me showing you how to do this. This is probably the simplest repair you can do to one of these radios. This is, again, if you're looking for the part number, it's a G2E by Omron. Also, if you do a search, you can find the entire service manual for this radio online. It's like 50 or 60 pages, and it includes everything, including how to modify the settings on all of these coils and every one of these trimmers. I'm not going to be doing any of that because it does still seem to be fairly well aligned, but if you've got the right gear, like an oscilloscope and a function generator and some other things, you can hook this sucker up and test it if it's giving you other problems. And all the information is available in a nicely downloadable PDF that I would highly recommend if you've got one of these suckers that you get. So there it is, replacing the G2E RF attenuator relay in a Kenwood TS-130S radio. I look forward to seeing you next time, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. Cheers.